going to open our meeting now. I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Maureen Chamberlain.
Thank you, Karen, who is our town clerk. We'd like to start with just a few parameters for everybody. As we go through the town report, there will be reading of articles. And as we read the article, I'll be looking for a motion for approval of that article, and then a second, and that will allow us to have a discussion. Otherwise, we can't have a discussion about the article. So I want to just make sure that everybody understands those pieces before we vote on each article. Also, I would like to have people raise their hand when they have a discussion item, stand and actually share your thoughts about that so that everybody can hear you. That would be kind. As well as one person talking at a time. We'll also look to count all the votes for all the articles. So we're going to start with Article number 2, the election of select members for the select board and then for the school board members for a 3-year term and the school board member for a 2-year term. So the election was held yesterday and the results are for the select person for a 3-year term, Kathy Paul Willett had 144 votes. Amy Espling had 115, and there was 1 blank. For the school board member, 3-year term, Ashley Bryden had 107 votes. Stephanie Mulliver had 136. There were 15 blanks, 1 vote for Luann Skidgel, 1 vote for Ethan Rosenberg. For the school board member 2-year term, Amy Espling had 150 votes, Luann Skidgel had 95 votes, 9 were blank, Jamie Stevens had 1 vote, Jean Cashman had 2, Joanne Cole had 1 vote, and Heather Pelletier had 1 vote. So those were the results. And the town clerk has informed me that we can allow those members who were just voted in yesterday to be sworn in by our treasurer, if you would like to do that now. If you do not want to do that now, you're going to have to do that at a later date, but now is a good time. So, yep, so Amy, Stephanie is not here, she'll have to do that at a different time. So let's congratulate our new I want to thank everybody who participated in the voting yesterday, including the staff who did the voting and the counting. There's a lot of detailed work that goes into that, and it was a pleasure to witness that yesterday as the moderator. So we're going to proceed. Article number 3. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to appoint constables, surveyors of Woodland, and any necessary town officers for the ensuing year. I need a nomination to approve that. Jean has nominated, and we have a second. Now, oh, thank you. We have 2 seconds, but that's okay. Thank you very much. Discussion. This one, right here. Maybe you should say your name. Okay. Discussion. No discussion? All those in favor? Keep your hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I have 32 yeses. All those not in favor? 0. Article number 4. To see the town will vote to authorize the municipal officers to spend an amount not to exceed 1/6 of the budget amount in each of the budgeted categories of the 2026 annual budget during the period from February 1st, 2026 to the 2026 annual town meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve it. Jean has motioned yes.
Steve, second.
Steve is seconding. Discussion? All those in favor? $36. All those not in favor? 0. Article number 5. To see the town will vote to give 3% discount on 2025 taxes paid on full by July 31st, 2025, and that all taxes unpaid as of November 1st, 2025, be subject to a 4% increase rate, and the interest on the abate taxes to be 4%. I need a motion to approve as written.
Jane Bradbury, so moved.
Second.
Steve is seconding it. Discussion? I'm going to go here and then I'll go there first.
I just want to clarify that November 1st in the article,
Yep.
it conflicts with the assessor's notice. I'm assuming the article is what you're running, correct? November 1.
There was a second question over here. Or was that the same question? Right.
If taxes are abated, why would the town pay interest on abated taxes?
Why would the town pay interest on abated taxes?
I believe that should be, I believe that should not be abated taxes. I believe that should be worded delinquent taxes.
So, are you making a motion
I
to
make a
amend?
motion that we change that wording to delinquent taxes rather than abated taxes.
So we need to vote on the, yes.
Okay. I think the intent there is so when you, for abated taxes that have already been paid, you're refunding the 4% back to the person who's receiving the abatement. If interest has been, if they've made a payment in July, and it's abated in December, we owe them interest back to July for their payment.
And that's how the article is written.
Correct.
So, we have a motion on the floor to approve it as written. We have a second recommendation to make a change. So before we can get to the change, we need to vote on whether we're going to approve the current written or not. If we do not approve it, then we can make a change.
Point of order, you have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
You have an amendment to the motion, but no second. Without a second, that falls off, so then we go back to the original motion.
Okay. So is there a second to the second motion made? If there isn't, thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate the support. So we have article number 5 as written, keeping abated taxes be given at 4%. There has been a motion and a second, and the discussion has been. Are you ready for further discussion, or are you ready for a vote?
Can you explain it a little more?
What's the difference with this, the way this is written, and it has the
over the past years.
It's the same wording that we have used every single year.
Okay, thank you.
So the 4% is not a penalty for being late with your taxes?
It is a penalty for being late with your taxes. However, what is correct, if you pay your taxes ahead of time, and then you are abated, and you get your money back, you're gonna get your money back plus 4% interest until the date that you paid it.
Because this says unpaid as of November 1st, be subject to 4% interest rate. And that interest and abated taxes be given at 4%.
Understood.
I have a question, okay, like, somebody like me, like I'm on fixed income, I usually try to keep my taxes paid by, by the next tax cycle. Now, what about, I'm not trying to go against anybody here, but what about these people that owe 6, 7, 8 years in back taxes?
The way this is written, this is in reference to what is owed in 2025. Am I correct? It doesn't get into past years.
Yes, but what I'm asking is, I mean, these people owe 6, 7, 8, 10 years without paying the taxes. What can we do to maybe?
I think there's another article later on that addresses unpaid
Okay,
taxes.
that's fine. I mean, a lot of us here, keep our taxes.
Yep,
I know
it's a good
of us
question.
here
Please note that.
are, I got to make monthly payments, but I always try to be, before the next tax cycle, it takes me a year to pay.
Understood.
And I understand, but I don't want to shoot for taxes. I'm sorry.
So we're going to move on for a vote unless we have further discussion. And we do.
So if I read this right, if I'm late on my taxes, I get charged 4%. And if later on I receive an abatement, then I get basically my 4% back. Okay, thank you.
Move the vote.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we're going to look to approve as written, Article number 5. And I have a move to vote.
You have to vote on the motion to vote.
So let's vote on the motion to vote. All those in favor of voting? $35. All those not in favor of voting? 0. Okay, so now we are going to look to approve Article number 5 as written. All those in favor? $38. All those not in favor? 0. Passes. Article number 6. To see if the town will, for the purpose of procuring a temporary loan or loans to and for the use of said town in conducting municipal year 2025 and in anticipation of and to be paid out of the taxes of the current municipal year 2025 can authorize and direct the town treasurer, subject to approval of the selectmen, to borrow from time to time during the said municipal year a sum of money to make, execute, and deliver the negotiable note or notes to the town therefore payable with said current municipal year, and upon such terms as shall be satisfactory to said treasurer and selectmen, and debt to debts be incurred hereunder, to be paid out of the money raised by taxation during the present municipal year. Jean motions approval as written. Steve is seconding it. Discussion. All those in favor as written? "36 yes. All those not in favor? 0. Article number 7. To see if the town will direct the town tax collector treasurer to accept prepayment of real estate and personal property tax not yet committed pursuant to 36 MRSA Section 506 and to pay an interest in said prepayments. The motion to accept Article number 7 as written. Jean is motioning yes. Steve is seconding. Discussion. Yes.
If we have to pay taxes on our unpaid balance, why shouldn't we get our interest paid back on our prepaid balance? Because I know that the town is getting interest on that. It's just a stupid question. I know, I'm not trying to be difficult, but we have to pay on our balances. But if we decide to prepay, I do believe we could prepay. But the town is taking the interest, so whatever that, we say if you get 0.01% interest on our prepaid balance, should we get that extra back?
I'm looking to the board. Do you have a comment on that question? Jean?
Basically, the prepayment they're talking about is if you're taking the whole tax year to pay your bill. So you can pay a little at a time instead of moving from up to the sun. Now, if you paid it all early, then you would get interest.
You get a
It's
discount.
You get a discount.
It's fine.
If you pay it all in advance, you would get a discount.
If you would get that same year, though, which we would get it till the next year.
No.
We get it.
You get,
It would be-
Well, no, if you, like, okay, if I paid my bill, prepaid my bill for next year. Okay, and let's see, my taxes are $486 a year. I prepaid that for next year, and you guys hold that for a year.
You're good.
But
I'm gonna get interest, but.
I'm going to ask for you guys to stop because the town clerk wants to answer the question.
actually, if you paid, you'd be getting a discount, so you'd be getting a 3% discount if you paid it early,
All in advance.
all in advance.
You could pay it still in advance, but over time, and still meet that deadline. You wouldn't be charged interest. You would not get interest.
What I believe he is saying is that if he's paying that in full, the money that you'd receive as a discount only is going to be applied to the following year.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yes.
what I was
Yes,
asking,
exactly.
that's what I was trying to ask. It wouldn't be applied to that particular year, it would be.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, that's, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. So we're still back to Article number 7 as it's written. Any further discussion? All those in favor? $33. All those not in favor? 0. Motion passed. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer all state revenue sharing funds to be received in the ensuing year to offset the tax commitment. I need a motion to approve as written. So moved is name. David, so the second is Bill Thomas. Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor? $37. All those not in favor? 0. The motion passed. Article number 9. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the town to sell and dispose of any real estate acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes thereon and on such terms as they deem advisable to execute quick claim deeds for such property, except that the municipal officers shall use the special sales process required by 36 MRS 943-C for qualifying homestead property if they choose to sell it to anyone other than the former owner or owners. Motion to accept is Jean, seconded by Steve. I'm going to go to you next time, Rita. Okay. So, discussion on this. All those in favor? All those not in favor? The motion passed for Article 9. Article number 10, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of any town-owned, used, or surplus equipment on such terms as they deem advisable. Motion to accept as written. Jean, seconded. Dana?
Advisable, would it go to town auction or?
So before we get into discussion.
Second.
So.
I did second that.
Oh, you did?
But I did have discussion too.
You're doing two things at one day. Okay, so the motion was approved first by Jean, seconded by Dana. Discussion, Dana.
John.
I want Dana to be Sorry, John. John, what was your discussion point?
Would that go to town on open auction?
The answer would be yes.
Yep.
Any other discussion on Article number 10? All those in favor? All those not in favor? Motion passed. Article number 11. To see if the town will vote to authorize the municipal officers to accept any grant funds which may be offered after application for same through the Community Development Block Grant Program, Department of Economic and Community Development, HUD, USDA Rural Development, or any other state and or federal programs, if town applicants are approved and authorize the municipal officers to accept said grant funds to make such assurances, assume such responsibilities, and exercise such authority as are necessary and reasonable to implement such programs. Any movement? Jean moves to approve. Steve is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? All those not in favor? 0. Motion passed. Article 12, to see if the town will authorize any sum legally allowed that is refunded to the town by the state for snowmobile registrations to be used for establishing and maintaining snowmobile trails in said town of Woodland. Motion, Jean says yes. John is seconding. Discussion. Go ahead.
Quick discussion point. So any money that would come back to the town, would that be donated to the trail clubs that are maintaining them, since there is no actual woodland snowmobile trails?
Correct. That would be correct.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion?
So that would either go to Caribou Snowmobile Club or to
Caribou.
Caribou Parks and Recs.
Caribou.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? 34 yes, any of those not in favor? 0, the motion passed. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to transfer $50,860 from the Maine Department of Transportation Local Road Assistance Program to offset the capital improvements of roads in the town of Woodland. Jean motions to approve as written.
Second.
Ted will second it. Discussion. All those in favor? Thirty-six yes, any not in favor? 0, the motion passed. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise the appropriate $264,600 general government. Last year it was $211,500. The select board recommends $264,600. Explanation, this includes general government administration of $140,600, elected appointed officials, $19,350, animal control of $1,600, code enforcement officer of $3,450, and municipal building of $93,600. The motion, Jean says yes, Steve is seconding. Discussion. Go ahead.
Jacob Fowler. The detail says that code enforcement officer is $3,450.
Yep.
Page 25 of the budget is listed as $5,200. So if it's passed as written, we're going to be $1,750 short.
Actually, because if you take the revenue that he generates into the town, you take that off his, off the expense of his salary, it brings it down to $3,450. And the anticipated revenue that he's going to be bringing for permits.
Kind of, but this is a gross expenditure, so the income would show up somewhere else, right?
Okay. I'm using past practices of what the town has done in the past. If it's wrong, Jean, then it's wrong, and I apologize.
Further discussion?
Karen, when we pay for a permit, does it go directly to the code enforcement officer, or does it go to the town of Woodland?
Goes to the town of Woodland to offset his salary.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? $27. All those not in favor? 1. The motion passed. Article number 15, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $686,600 for public. Let's start again. To see if the town will vote and appropriate $686,600.
685,100.
I'm reading from this document, and it says 686.
This is updated from the book. This is updated.
So, the question, I'm confused. It sounds like there are some older books that have a different number?
Yes.
Yes, it's an update. We've had some updates here for this page.
The one, the signed warrant has $686,600. as in.
Is that available for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I can make you a copy, Will, it's
Well,
this, I don't
yes.
have.
There's no copies here.
There's something else.
Do you have? No, there's none.
Oh, I thought you said. Sorry, Ralph.
So it sounds like we do not have copies to disseminate of the
No.
update.
You're good. I don't want to be the only one in the room.
But the warrant that was put out for the town had this amount in it, $686,600 for Public Works Highway Department. Last year, it was $692,600. Selectmen recommending $686,600. Motion to accept as read. Know that some of you is not written. Jean says yes, and Tom. Bill says second. All those in favor as I have read it. 6. 27 say yes. All those not in favor? 0. Motion passed. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $80,250 for insurance, retirement, and payroll liabilities. This will include Social Security Medicare at $9,000, medical insurance at $50,000, PFMLA employer $5,250, retirement $500, unemployment insurance $500, workman's compensation at $15,000 for a total of $80,250. Last year, it was $97,500. Selectmen recommend that it be $80,250. Jean motions and is approved. Steve is seconding. Discussion.
Do we have an idea where the savings came from?
Yeah, it's, less people taking the health insurance is a huge one of it.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? $34 say yes. Any of those not in favor? 0. The motion passed. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $65,000 to be used for solid waste disposal, health, and sanitation. Last year, it was $68,000. The select board has recommended $65,000. Jean motions to approve. Steve is seconding. Discussion. Steve seconded. You're good, Bill. I will count on you next time. Discussion. All those in favor? $36 say yes. Any of those not in favor? 0. The motion passed. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $174,943.75 for ambulance and fire services. Last year, it was $152,125. The select board is recommending $175,000. Explanation. The $174,943.75 is the total of combination of Caribou Fire and Ambulance and the Caribou Fire Protection Services. Fire Ambulance, $34,988.
That's it.
Okay. So, Fire Protection Services at $139,955.
Swap.
She wants me to swap those. So the fire ambulance is really $139,955. $39,955, and the fire ambulance is 34 is, okay.
Sorry.
Switch those. So, motion, Jean is motioning to approve it, and seconded was Ashley? Emily, sorry. Discussion. Go ahead.
In the following. Page 26, the line item budgets at 175,000. Selectmen recommend 175,000. The article is 174,943.75 cents. So why are we voting on 175?
It should be 174,943.75. That's the correct figure. Or data, I'm sorry.
So, are we modifying this article? Do I have a motion to modify the article?
Point of order, you can't go up, you can only go down.
We are going to.
Right, but,
We would go down from 175.
you
That-
you're already
to
at 174.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, you can't go up to the 175 that's in the line
So the article
item. So
says.
the article says 174,943.75, which I believe
And that's
is what
where- yes.
the bill is.
Yes.
The item here where it says select recommended 175,000, that's kind of a.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from a previous board member is that's a moot point because it was just a recommendation. And what I'm hearing is that we would pay the exact amount that would be the cost, which is 174,943.75 cents. Okay, any further discussion on that? Just a point of clarification, the office did collect data that the Caribou Fire and Ambulance was not asked when they came here at a board meeting. Woodland over the last 5 years has had a pretty significant increase in ambulance and fire services. So I just wanted the community to be aware of that. They are collecting data on that for 5 years and longer. And so that would be very helpful when this kind of article comes back.
2019 ambulance services were 64. In 2024, they were 124.
So it's clear that our community is using these resources readily. Just a reminder to the community, if you do not have a contract, you would be second on the list if duplicate calls come in.
Point of order,
Yes.
I don't mean to be difficult, but it's my understanding that the moderator wants to speak as a citizen.
I have to stand outside a big one.
Yeah, so.
Thank you, Rose.
I mean, I just like you to keep that in mind as we go forward.
All those in favor? $34 yeses. All those not in favor? 0. Motion pass. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,313 for Central Aroostook Humane Society. Last year it was $2,313. The board is recommending $2,313. Motion to accept, Jean is saying yes, Steve is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? $35. All those not in favor? 0. Motion pass. Article 20. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,134 for the Woodland Maine Development Commission for the 2025 membership dues. Last year it was $2,134. The board is recommending that we move forward with that. Motion by Jean to approve as stated. Emily is seconding. Discussion. Go ahead, David.
Is it such that we could have a member of the town attend the NMDC board meetings? Isn't there a contribution entitled us to that?
I believe at a previous board meeting, a board member, which I think was Matt, and a town office staff person was elected to attend.
Really? Yeah, I must have missed that meeting, my mistake.
I think you know that it was a discussion that was had by the board. But the question on the table is his question.
No, I just was wondering if somebody from the town was doing it.
No one is handled. So currently, there is no one from the town attending the Northern Maine.
So the opportunity is there if somebody from the town wanted to volunteer for it, which I guess is the point I wanted to raise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thirty-six yeses. All those not in favor? 0, the motion passed. Article 21, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $118,258 for the Aroostook County tax? Last year was $111,564.30. The select board recommends the $118,258. Jean motions to accept as written. Emily is second. Discussion. All those in favor? $35 yeses. Any disapproval for? No. Motion passed. Article 22. To see if the town will vote to raise the appropriate $6,278 for social services for the following services offered to the town. The Aroostook County Action Program at $485, American Red Cross at $350, Aroostook Area Agency on Aging at $150, Caribou Emergency Management at $200, Catholic Charities of Maine at $100, Central Aroostook Solar and Water at $250, Healthy Families at Aroostook $100, Life Flight $608, Maine Veterans Cemetery $100, Sister Mary O'Donnell's Shelter $2,305, Woodland Cemetery Association $280, Woodlands Historical Society $1,100, Woodland Ski Trail $250 for a total of $6,278. Last year it was $5,670. The Select Board is recommending the full amount of $6,278. Jean motions to accept the article as written. Steve is seconding. Discussion.
So for Caribou Emergency Management, is that different?
Yes, it is
What
different.
is that?
You know where the courthouse is, that building behind it?
Yeah.
That is Caribou Emergency Management. That is if something terrible happens, a flood, an earthquake, a tornado, they respond.
And that's different from?
It is different. It is different from, yes.
Thank you.
And the difference between last year's and this year's is we added Lifeline on to donate to Lifeline. And that's the difference between the year's difference.
Joe?
Well, that's on the news, I heard, Sister Mary O'Donnell's shelter shutting down the next month or so. So I would recommend that, I think what we said, they shut that thing down, those last 7
Before Jean,
Same point.
same point, okay. Jean?
That isn't a definite thing. It's better than a 50-50, but that is not a done deal. I say we appropriate it, and if they stay open, we give it to them. Just the way it's written. Because if you amend it, you're gonna have to come back. If you say no, you're gonna have to come back to a separate meeting, vote on that one thing. Why not just take care of it now?
Any further discussion?
I was talking to the gentleman outside over there, and last time I put on a meal, there was a lot less kids, less people there. So they actually are doing good to get people off the roads and the homes and all.
Any other discussion, please? All those in favor? Thirty-six are in favor. Any not in favor? 0, the motion passed. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,000 for general assistance for the ensuing year. Motion to accept as written. Whoops. Let me do the next page. Last year was $1,000, we're approving $1,000. Jean is motioning to accept as written. Steve is seconding. Discussion. Jeff.
That is spent every year.
This last year was $500, a little over $500 was spent over that. So no, the whole appropriation was not spent. It just goes back into the general fund. It stays in the general fund.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? $36 yes. Any of those not in favor? 0. Motion passed. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $23,500 for discounts and abatements for the insuring year. Last year was $20,000. Select board recommends $23,500. Explanation, abatements $3,500, discounts $20,000 for 2025 tax bills equaling $23,500. Jean motions to accept as written. Steve is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? $36 yeses. Those not in favor? 0, the motion passes. Article 25, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,000 to be added to office equipment reserves. Select board is recommending $1,000. Jean supports the motion as written. Steve is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? $33 yeses. All those not in favor? 0. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,000 to be added to the highway equipment reserves. Select board recommends $10,000. Jean supports it as written, seconded by Steve. Discussion. All those in favor?
So if we had a single purchase that was $10,000 or over required for equipment, it would still come to a town vote. Yeah. If it was
This
$10,000 or more for one purchase, it would still come to a town vote? Okay.
So, go ahead.
This is just appropriating money going into the reserve. So there's already money in the reserve account, it's a little bit to it. So it may or may not come to the town vote, it's a purchase agreement.
Thank you for the
Depends on
clarification.
the board's choices.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Thirty-four yeses, all those not in favor? 0, the motion passes. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,000 to be added to the building repair reserve. Select board recommends the $10,000. Jane approves it as stated. Emily is seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Thirty-five yeses. All those not in favor? 0, the motion passes. Article 28, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $5,000 to be added to the assessment reserve account. The select board is recommending the $5,000. The explanation is for future additional assessment for town assessor, as that is what he recommended. Motion, Jane's motion to approve it, Steve is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? Thirty-six yeses. Any of those not in favor? 0, motion passed. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to transfer the unexpended balance, if any, to the road maintenance reserve account. The board is saying yes to this. Jean is supporting it, Emily is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? Thirty-three yeses, all those not in favor? No, motion passes. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to transfer $30,000 from undesignated funds account and or retain earnings for unanticipated purchases or repair equipment. Jean motions for it to be approved, Steve is seconding. Discussion.
In the following. To the prior comment about the 10,000, so this is an article where they can add 30 if they needed to. But secondly, I think we're missing some language, so authorize selectmen to transfer, if needed, up to $30,000, I think is what should be in there.
I'll move that edit.
Is there a second for that motion? There's a second.
Second.
So there has been a motion added on the floor to add language of select board to transfer if needed up to $30,000. That's the change in wording on the article. Any further discussion on that? Jean?
Yeah, I'll accept the amendment.
You'll accept the amendment because you were the original person. And then when you were the second, or Steve was, would you accept those changes as
We have to vote on the amendment.
first? And then we have to come back and read
And then
it.
the motion will be voted on amendment. So you approve the amendment.
So, I believe we have to vote on the article first.
Vote on the amendment. You know, the amendment first.
We're going to vote on the amendment. We're going to read the amendment. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to transfer if needed up to $30,000 from undesignated fund accounts and or retained earnings for unanticipated purchases or repair for equipment. That is the amended, supported version. Any further discussion about that amendment? All those in favor of the amendment? Thirty-six yeses. Any opposing of the amendment? So the amended article has been approved. Correct? Do we have to vote down the original article?
Now you vote on the whole article as amended. First part was just the amendment, second part of the whole article.
That's why you should have done what I said. This is, we're gonna get it.
I know, it's wonderful. So I am going to read the article which has now been amended. Article number 30 has been amended. It reads, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to transfer, if needed, up to $30,000 for undesignated funds account and or retained earnings for unanticipated purchases or repairs of equipment. All those in favor? $35 yeses. Any of those not in favor? 0. The amendment passes. Article 31, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $20,000 to be added annually to the Equipment Replacement Fund for fiscal year 2029, until fiscal year 2029. Equity replacement.
It says equity.
Sorry, let me reread that. Article 31, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $20,000 to be added annually to the Equity Replacement Fund until fiscal year 2029. Jean supports it as written. Ted is seconding. Discussion. I got cheeky, I have Dana and you guys decide. Which one goes first?
Bronze Younger.
So this is the money that we're paying ourselves back for the grader, correct?
Yes.
Last year, I noticed that we did not have an expiration date on when we're gonna, why was that added just
Because
for
it's
us?
only for
so that
8
we paid
years.
off in 29?
It's only for 8 years. You're paying yourself back for 8 years, so.
For the grader, because the graders
Right.
can take back, that's what it is, so that is.
So if we approve this, then we wouldn't have to have this article next year every time? Or is it gonna be every year?
Those big.
Dana, did you have additional questions?
So this is $20,000 a year through fiscal year 2029. So I believe that's 5 years, 20,000 is $100,000 that we're setting aside and replenishing, whatever we want to call it. In Article 33, we're looking to borrow $250,000 over 60 months, 5 years. So on one hand, we're putting money away, and on the other hand, we're borrowing. Why don't we just borrow less money? Take that, instead of raising that, instead of borrowing the 250, borrow 150. On Article 33, borrow 150 because you're raising 100,000 in Article 31. Over 5 years, both of them are over 5 years. So one hand we're borrowing, on the other we're saving, like why don't we just net it out?
So Dana, I know that you jumped ahead to article number 33, I would caution us because it says purchase of a plow truck. So I just need to point that out, the wording of that article. But we're not there yet.
Well, the equity replacement is to put money back for a grader that's purchased, so it's heavy equipment, it's basically 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Okay.
The only thing I would say to that is that when the grader was purchased, the town voted to purchase the grader with the understanding that we were putting those money back in reserves. What you're saying makes absolute sense.
But there
But
was a
we
previous
owe,
commitment.
but the municipal government owes the people in the community the effort to put the money back where it's at.
So in effect, what we're doing is borrowing money to put it in a reserve account, which makes no sense at all.
At 7 to 9%.
So would the board like to comment on that? What would you like to do?
The greater account was established back, how many years ago?
2021.
Yeah. And it wasn't contributed to the first few years. So it was brought to our attention, if you remember, last year. So we went ahead and put it in there for last year and again for this year because we're just trying to follow the rules of the purchase and the establishment of this account. Had we not put that in there this year, then we would be negligent of our duty that was voted upon so many years ago, which data makes perfect sense. So it's almost like we're forcing ourselves to save some money, so we're borrowing money over here. So whether we can ask the community to let us stop contributing to this equity account and reestablish less money to borrow. Is that how you do it, Dana? Stop the equity fund, equity replacement account?
If we promised ourselves we're gonna put money back in the equity fund, put it back in, then take it out instead of borrowing money.
Okay, so you're saying that on the next article that we should decrease that article down to $150,000?
You could, or it says not to exceed 250, so it could go as is, or you could put it at 150.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, that amount, that $250,000 is just an estimate of where we could land. So if we're gonna put money back into that equity replacement account that we can draw out to purchase the trucks, then we'll only need to use $150,000 on the trucks.
Right.
Okay. So in essence, we can leave them both in here.
Why can't we eliminate that equity fund?
Well, the town had already voted for us.
Can they vote to take it out? They voted to put it in,
Well, we
they voted to take it out.
can't vote to take it out now unless we have another article.
Because, I mean, you put money in there, why don't you just put it in equipment reserve? That's what I'm saying. That was made there just to pay back the grader. Why didn't we just pay back equipment reserve?
Okay.
Because I can never find out an answer where the money come from.
Okay, Chris? Thank you. Gene?
We've kind of beat it to death. I'd like to move the question.
Okay. So we have a move to attend to this article, and it's been seconded by Ted. All those in favor of moving forward? Thirty-three say yes. Anybody saying no to moving it forward? I apologize, I didn't count Karen. 34 saying yes. Any saying no? 0. We will move to a vote on this Article 31 as written. All those in favor? 32 say yes. All those not in favor? 0. The motion passes. Article 32, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to transfer, if needed, up to $10,000 from undesignated fund account, surplus account, and/or retain earnings to cover an overdraft in a budgeted account. Motion by Jane to approve as written. Steve is seconding. Discussion. All those in favor? Thirty-three yeses. All those not in favor? 0. The motion passes. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to approve the purchase of a plow truck or trucks for the Public Works Department to be paid monthly over a period of 60 months for a price not to exceed $250,000, payment to be made from Highway Equipment Reserve. Jean supports moving forward as motion, and Emily is seconding. Discussion.
So we approved this last year. How much money did we spend repairing the current fleet instead of buying a truck?
We put 41 motor, 40,000, 45,000 total.
We read the book on equipment repairs this time.
And that included the sweeper spot too.
That's not.
Yes, that don't include the 2 plows.
Under the reserve?
No, they're, equipment, your public works, equipment repair, that's what they spend.
118.
So, follow-up question, we intend on buying a truck this year?
If we can find
If we
one.
can find one. We couldn't get one last year. So if we can find one that's available, we can find a deal on it.
Equipment rental plus, we're going to pay 10,000 to 16.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thirty-one yeses. All those not in favor? 0. The motion passes. Article 34, to see if the town will vote to approve an ordinance for a sovereign market in the town of Woodland. This ordinance is intended to provide the residents unimpeded access to local food and to reduce governmental regulation of local foods to the extent permitted by home authority under 30 AMR S8 2001, the Constitution of Maine, Article 8, Part 2, and pursuant to 7 MRS 281 and sequence. Motion to accept as written. Jean is yes, Steve is seconding. Discussion. Here, I'll come back to you, Jean.
So this was voted down last year. I'm curious why we're bringing it up again.
It was brought back to us to put it back in as an article to see if sovereign market.
It was brought forward by the community, or was it brought forward by the state? Or?
It was by the community. Yep.
We didn't vote on it last year, it was just taken off.
Yep. Because they were going to look into some other aspects of it.
There's no information on it.
Ted St. Pierre, 129 Brown Road, where that came about, is that the people that was putting sponsor of this up in Stockholm, New Sweden, has come back to the planning board and asked us to look at the ordinance so we could pass that for the people in Woodland. The counties passed it for their communities and most of the other ones. But if we don't pass the ordinance, if this doesn't go through. The people that selling their products will not be able to go to Stockholm, solvent market. They have to pay to go there. They've been allowing them to go there last year. But if they don't pay, they don't go, ordinance doesn't go through. They won't be allowed to go to their solvent market. And we have 4 or 5 people in this community that does that. So it's a good ordinance for this town.
Sarah, you had your hand up earlier, did you?
Well, I think that the same problem though that we had last year was that an ordinance is, for this has to be a lot more detailed than what you have here. And I think Ted and I talked about that.
The ordinance that the planning board is putting together has put in a legal statement in there that townsfolk will not be liable for anything that's been sold.
But that's not what we're voting on. That's my point, is that if we're going to vote on an ordinance, it should be in writing, in here now that we can examine. There's a lot of different things about liability and safety issues, and so we're in the exact same situation we were in last year, where nobody has written a comprehensive ordinance. It doesn't mean it can't come back. Somebody could write an ordinance and
we're working on the ordinance now.
It's not appropriate to vote on it now, that's my opinion.
So if we vote it down, we can't, our community cannot go there to shop or sell.
We have to get the ordinance written up first.
Okay.
I know,
So you would just make it a personal choice not to shop there.
right.
Okay.
James.
The bottom line is, the only reason I moved this question, I think it's a mistake to pass. The safety side of it is not at all where it ought to be. There's no way, unless we see a really detailed section of it, that we should vote for this. I don't care how many times we say we're not liable. You can say it. You may still end up in court and be liable. And I don't want to see someone in town get deathly ill because they had something to test.
Madam Moderator, we're being asked to approve an ordinance because it's not yet written.
Exactly.
It's not yet been written and brought to town meeting. You can have a special town meeting once the ordinance is written. And townspeople have an opportunity to read that ordinance. Right. This is a blind check.
I believe they also have to have their own place to have it. I don't think it can take place on town property.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
So, correction on the wording, it really should not say sovereign market, it should say sovereign food program. The town of Stockholm, or it's not the town of Stockholm, but some of the residents in the town of Stockholm have a sovereign market where sellers and purchasers of food sign up to be a member of this market. That's not what we're advocating here. And I realize we can't vote on this tonight, but I just wanted to clarify.
So, we have an article in front of us. The discussion has identified that as an ordinance, there's a full process in having it written and followed in a level of detail that is not listed here. So, what's our next step?
Take a vote.
Take a vote. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so all those in favor, raise your hand. Keep it up for a second. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 are in favor. All those not in favor? $23 not in favor. The article does not pass. Article 35.
I move to pass over Article 35.
What?
I move to pass over Article 35.
So we have a vote to pass over And a vote is seconded. Discussion.
So, Will Barnum. So I've got some emails here that are communications with the town from Maine Municipal Authority that identify some pretty bothersome issues with it. The representative from MMA identifies some potential problems with the board, select board chair ruling on questions of evidence and procedure. She notes that there's language in the ordinance that confuses the difference between the purposes of various public hearings. She also notes that there are requirements in the ordinance that directly conflict with language and laws pertaining to Maine's Freedom of Access Act. Okay, so there's also language that raises constitutional concerns, specifically with the First Amendment rights of the public and members of the board, and creates conflicts with the rights of due process, specifically for municipal employees, and that the ordinance also inaccurately describes the statutory process for amending ordinances at town meetings, and creates confusion and inconsistency in applicability of ethics rules, as the ordinance conflicts with current conflict of interest language currently in state law. So basically, it's not ready.
Being on that committee, they never told us we were conflicting with state law or anything. Where you got that is we want to be.
So this comes.
The point is, I've got the floor. The point is, this town has nothing in writing on how it ought to run, and that's nuts. We need it. We spent over 500 hours. We went back and forth with them. We had 2 public meetings and hardly any negative comments. And we had one just recently. We need these ordinances.
We need these ordinances.
John.
Madam Chair, I'm not disagreeing with the work you've done. You're right, you got to have an operations policy, not ordinance. The policy can be changed on the fly, if you will. An ordinance requires town meeting to make any changes by the mayor. So that's my answer.
I'm going to come back to Jane, and you were going to go to Rose.
We did struggle with that. The reason that we went with ordinances is because we didn't want a board to come in and trash it because they didn't like being regulated. And the only way that the town got to decide is if they were ordinances. If that board, if we had ordinances, they could not change any of them without a public vote. That's the only reason we did it. And worst case scenario, we could live with bylaws, but then you're a victim of whatever the ordinance is.
Rose.
I'm speaking on the ordinance today as a private citizen and not as an appointed committee member. I resigned from the steering committee last fall over differences of opinion with the rest of the committee about the way that we should attribute to the feedback we were getting from the Maine Municipal Association, who told us with our very first draft that the ordinance had many problems. I recall urging my fellow committee members to slow down, back up, that we need to look at that very closely. I was willing to go right back to the drawing board if I needed to, and that's after spending 7 months on that committee meeting weekly. I worked on that ordinance. When we sent it to MMA and got it back saying, whoa, there are problems with this, I was willing to reconsider. I worked on it as hard as anybody else, but I saw the MMA guidance. MMA, they are the experts in municipal law. We pay dues to them to guide us, to make sure that we're following the law and the administration of our government. the MMA has urged at least 3 times that I'm aware of from looking at emails that the town, the committee, and the board has received from them. They urge us every single email, if you're gonna pass an ordinance, work closely with the town attorney. I don't believe that's happened. I don't believe anybody has worked closely with the town attorney before passing this ordinance. What we have is, as an alternative means, as Jean pointed out, was to come up with recommended bylaws to give to the board, that the board could then pass. The board could tweak those bylaws, to change them, but ultimately pass them their own guidelines to run the board. That's what the MMA recommended. Somehow we got drawn into the idea of document ordinance, which has the effect of law, which can't be tweaked unless you come back, do public hearings on the changes you want to make, do a new warrant, post it, go through everything that we just went through to hold this in order to make any changes that this board or future boards might want to make. So I said it when I resigned from the committee. I've communicated and tried to convince my fellow committee members. I've sent emails to the board. I've had conversations with some board members where I explained how I felt. I don't know what more I could have done to get across how I felt about it. I don't think anybody's getting a, oh my God, you know, why is she coming out with this now? I've been saying this for a long time to a lot of people. I don't think this is good public policy. I don't think it's the way to go. I do agree that we need bylaws for the Board of Selectmen, whether we need to get into other areas of ordinance, but an ordinance is something that you do to regulate the town and the people of the town, not the board. And that's where I stand.
Did you have additional comments?
I was just going to say, to answer Jean's question, these are communications with Brianna Gearson. She's an attorney at MMA. And I'm not entirely sure why these weren't included in the minutes in the notebook over at the town office. These seems like pretty pertinent emails. Where that ball got dropped, I don't know, but it's bullet pointed and it references specific sections in the ordinance. And I went back through the final draft on the website, and almost everything, with the exception of converting from a 3-person to a 5-person board, is still in the ordinance that she's referencing. So I don't want to see the town get into an issue where someone is filing a civil lawsuit against the town because their First Amendment rights were violated or their due process wasn't honored as an employee of the town.
Gee.
The only time they questioned seriously was when we said we wanted to follow Robert's Rules of Order. That was the only thing they were seriously concerned about.
Gene, I think there are emails you haven't seen, or haven't been shared with us.
So she references Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules is still in the ordinance.
Yeah, and we wanted them.
But specifically, I mean, there's 11 bullet points in one of these emails that references, matters of being opposed to public hearing. In general, the ordinance seems to confuse the difference between the purpose of a public hearing on executive function versus public hearing for quasi-judicial functions. There's a 72-hour requirement for special meetings, which is inconsistent with FOIA. Sections 5 and 10, the municipality cannot change FOIA requirements by ordinance. It goes on. Public comment rule that prohibits comments that have, quote, the effect of embarrassing or attacking the character of board members or the board raises constitutional First Amendment issues. Similar concerns are raised by sections 11C, which governs the conduct of members, and 11O, which governs political activities. So, I'm not saying that everything in here is bad, but these things are still in there, and this lady does this for a job. I don't work on my own teeth, I'm not a dentist. I don't practice my own law, I'm not a lawyer. So a person who works for MMA, I can't help but think has a little bit of authority in understanding the interpretation of the law here. So I don't think it's a terribly great idea to go down a road that's gonna potentially put the town in legal hot water when we have the opportunity to put the brakes on this, examine these items, and then come back to this at another time. That's why I made the motion to pass over.
I hear you. We're still in discussion. Kathy?
I have a question if you will. You did receive these other books that were prepared and put on the counter?
Correct.
Where did you receive them?
Not pertinent.
It is pertinent. If you're making it part of a Passover request, it is quite
I can
pertinent.
give you these copies.
Please do.
You want them? And they've got your name on them.
That's exactly right.
So it's public record. So you're welcome to them.
And they were presented at the meeting. We were, yes, you were there at the meeting.
Yeah, I was at that meeting, it was over in the garage, and you.
No, I wasn't.
You handed those emails to Ted. Ted and I looked at them together. So yes, you're correct. They were.
That was on the 3rd of December?
Yeah.
I couldn't swear to that, but.
That's the video that Sarah doesn't have on her record of videos, was that December 3rd meeting?
Sarah wasn't even.
She was there, she recorded the whole meeting, and she hasn't posted it
I'm
yet.
talking about the meeting where we were trying to decide whether to bifurcate the five-man board from the.
Yeah, that was December 3rd.
Okay, and.
Yeah.
Yes, so we took a break, you printed them off, and you came back and you handed copies.
Yeah,
so that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where those come from. So it was a public record shared with the public. It sounds though like Jean hasn't seen it, and I don't.
Jean, you had a comment?
Well, I got a comment. Number one, everything in there is being used in some other towns in the state. And they are not considered. We quoted the exact laws in that ordinance that had to be followed so that we wouldn't violate. There are a number of towns, we picked and chose around the state to get these ideas. Some of them are tougher than the next.
Yes.
Did you consult with the town's attorney?
I did.
Yeah, you did. MMA said it's not good. So,
And then they didn't say it wasn't good.
they recommended you
And then
consult.
they gave you suggestions in which.
Point of order. Okay, we're not going to argue, right? So, in the email, MMA says we're not going to give you legal advice. These are the things that we've identified as issues. We recommend you consult with your town's attorney to fix them. They're still in the
It
ordinance.
did not say fix them.
Address them. Sorry, I apologize.
So, your comments have been addressed, and Kathy, did you have any other further comments on that?
Well, just that this was presented, if you remember, there would have to be a member of council meeting and presented this to the board. And we three attended these meetings several times and went over all of this.
Yeah. Sarah?
I mean, people can vote the way they choose. The idea that you're going to pass a law with that level of concern from experts in the municipal law field is troublesome, and it should be worrisome to everybody. There's provision that has a chilling effect on people's First Amendment right. That's the United States Constitution, the state of Maine Constitution. It violates the Freedom of Information Act. Why would you pass a law that you know has legal infirmities? When somebody passes a law in the state's legislature, it goes before the reviser of statutes and it's looked at. It's made sure grammar is correct, spelling is correct, it doesn't violate other laws. It's not just something you put together. Besides all the things that Will has mentioned here today and that Rose has mentioned here, there's internal inconsistencies with the law. You have a definition of, in the ethics portion, which says the board is the select board and then members are members of other committees or whatever. And then within the ethics, you only address the behavior of members. This is not ready for prime time. It is not ready. people can reject that and they can move on and say that they choose to do it today. But the people of this town deserve a well-written, especially if it's going to be an ordinance. It deserves a well-written ordinance, and it is not.
Matt and then Chris.
Question for you is, why on the 3rd did you ask us to sign this? You specifically asked Chris and I, and Kathy stepped out.
I'm not going to argue. I was there about the 5-person board.
The whole thing was a package of one.
I never would have suggested that this be.
When you asked us to sign the warrant, you said it wasn't right, we could correct it later, was your exact words.
The
You haven't
5-person
posted
board.
that.
I'm not going to argue with you, Mr. Selectman.
Chris?
I do the same question.
Okay. Any further discussion? Jean?
One last bottom line. There is nothing there that they said broke the law. Nothing. Period. And free speech doesn't mean you can say anything, anytime, anywhere. And that's been shown for that. There are limits to what in a public meeting should never happen. And it was happening in public meetings in this town, and it was embarrassing.
I have a vote on my motion.
Second.
So we have a motion on the floor that says
Pass over Article 30.
to pass over Article 35. So we've had discussion. All those in favor of passing over? All those not in favor of passing over? So 17 to 19, the motion that you offered does not pass. So we are going to go back to Article 35. Article 35 says, shall an ordinance entitled Town of Woodland Operational Procedure Ordinance be enacted? The board suggests yes. Jean supports it as written.
Second.
Steve is seconding with Ted. Discussion. Go ahead.
We're just going to emphasize that MMA does not feel that this is a sound piece of legal language, and the town made a mistake if they accept it as written.
Duly noted.
Question.
I have a move to question on the floor.
Second.
It's seconded. All those in favor of moving forward? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 16. Since you moved, are you voting for it? The motion was to move forward on the vote.
It's just to move the question.
Move the question. Stop the discussion. And it was seconded. So that's what we're voting on, stopping the discussion. Please raise your hands again if you approve. 21 approve moving it forward. All those who disapprove? Let me count that again. Keep your hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 to 21, the motion passes. Back to Article 35, we are going to vote. Shall an ordinance entitled Town of Woodland Operational Procedure Ordinance be enacted? All those in favor? There's 17 yeses. All those not in favor? Keep your hands up, please. We have a tie vote, 17 to 17. I did not vote on this.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Okay. So the motion is failed. So at this point, we are done with this town meeting.
Move to close. Second.
No,
36 is not part of the first warrant, so the second warrant came out. The second portion of the town meeting will be scheduled as is on the warrant on Friday at 6:30.
Move to close.
Move to close, and it was seconded. Any further discussion for closure? All those in favor? I'm not counting. All those who do not want? Motion's approved.